Hello everybody, Adultery for Life here, bringing you guys a brand new Blast from the Past. This time around, we are talking about the neo-spacian elemental hero Neos archetype, which is it's kind of hard to explain how this works. Basically, for those who don't know, the neo-spacians are the unofficial sixth archetype in the hero category. Okay, there's the hero like main archetype, and then there's five hero by name archetypes: elemental hero, evil hero, fission hero, masked hero, and destiny hero. And then there's the sixth unofficial hero archetype, and that is the neo-spacians. Technically speaking, these guys are support cards for the elemental heroes. But, however, they are their own archetype and do not benefit really pretty much anything from the elemental heroes themselves, which is a really big disservice to them because they really could use it. Like, I would love to go search out Hummingbird with e-call, but that's not the case. Anyways, so how this deck works is basically all these guys over here: Neo-Spacian Dark Panther, Neo-Spacian Grandmo, Neo-Spacian Air Hummingbird, Neo-Spacian Aqua Dolphin, and Neo-Spacian Flare Scarab, along with Neo-Spacian Glow Moss, all support Elemental Hero Neos over here. Elemental Hero Neos and the Neo-Spacians were all used by Jade and Yuki in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime and acted as support for his Elemental Hero deck. Don't ask me how the heck he managed to get the old school heroes and Neo-Spacians to be able to work together in a coherent deck that he won almost always with. I have tried and I have failed. I blame anime. Now then, basically how this deck works is that these guys are all supposed to basically give you life points, bounce cards, act as different things in order to get out Neos and then go for a contact fusion. Now, basically, this is where the idea of contact fusion came from, and sadly, it didn't really go anywhere in terms of competitive play. The only competitive Neo-Spacian deck that has ever done anything is Air Neos OTK, which is all about getting your life points as low as possible compared to your opponent's life points and going for an OTK. Okay, basically, Air Neos, for those who don't know, he gets he gets attack points equal to the difference between your opponent's life points and your life points, provided yours are lower, which can really help coming back from stuff. Although it's kind of weird how he focuses on having lower life points, but Air Hummingbird focuses on giving you more life points. It's kind of weird how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about this card by card, and we're going to go ahead and discuss it. So, first and foremost, Elemental Hero Neos. Not much to really say about him other than how awesome he looks. In terms of design, he is arguably one of my favorite main deck Elemental Heroes in terms of just how he looks. He's a level 7, I almost said 5, 2500 beat stick, and he is the boss monster of the deck, technically. Granted, though, your guys over here are much more the boss monsters. Then there's Neos Alias. He was meant to help out a lot more since he is a Gemini who becomes Elemental Hero Neos after you Gemini summon him. The only issue with this is that you gotta Gemini summon him, which is very, very annoying. Now, if they made it to where this card becomes Elemental Hero Neos while on the field or in the graveyard, that would have been so much better. Like, holy crap, Konami. God dang it. But hey, you know what? Making him a Gemini actually made things better for Bubble Beat and other hero decks later on. But however, I still would have liked it better if he had the basically Cyber Dragon effect as with the newer Cyber Dragons, where he becomes Elemental Hero Neos while on the field. And that is one of the big problems with this deck, is that Neos himself, the main guy you need to go into all these cool things, is a level 7. And it's kind of hard to get out of level 7 these days, especially very easily. Now then, next up, Neo-Space Pathfinder. Technically, this isn't part of the E-Hero archetype or the Neo-Spacian archetype, but however acts as support for it, in that you can discard it, add a Neo-Space from your deck to your hand, which is kind of important, and also you can grab it from the graveyard. This is back in the days when Konami felt like every single field spell needed a monster search card. Because I think Terraforming was at 1 at the time or something like that. I can't remember. Now then, onto the actual Neo-Spacian archetype. Dark Panther, this guy has actually seen some competitive play by himself in the past, most notably with Synchro Cat format. Because once per turn, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls until the end phase. While you control this face-up card, this card's name and effects become those of that target. This is really cool in mirror matches. Like, for instance, targeting your opponent's. Let's say you're playing wind-ups. You target your opponent's wind-up magician. He becomes wind-up magician until the end phase. So then, like, let's say you, I don't know, do something, get out a shark, and then, oh, hey, look at you got wind-up magician's effect, and that triggers all your other wind-up crap. Now then, sadly, again, they have crap stats. Like, he is the strongest neo-spacian at 1,000 attack power, and that is one of my biggest complaints with the neo-spacians themselves, is that while they all have pretty decent effects, except for Glomos, they all have crap attack power. Now, one of them tries to circumvent this, but however, it's just like really annoying. Now, granted, they really could have benefited from some of these guys being like level 4, 1800 attack. Panther! It's a Panther! Why isn't this thing strong? Why is it not a level 4 of 1800 attack? That would have been good. Anyways, I digress. Neo-Spacian Grandma, probably the most well-known Neo-Spacian, because he is at 1, and I don't understand why he's still at 1, but he used to be at 1 because he's just an out to every single problem monster you can think of. Normal summon him, attack, effect, bounce both monsters back to the hand. Oh hey, your opponent has a Beals, normal summon, attack, effect, bounce both. That Beals goes back to the extra deck, he goes back to your hand, and you don't have to worry about that Beals until your opponent makes him again next turn. And you just repeat the process. And honestly, I really think it could come back to 3. Nobody's playing Grand Mole. I haven't seen anybody play Grand Mole in forever. Next up, Neo-Spacian Air Hummingbird. This is honestly one of my favorites, simply because it's just so nice that this deck has a way of gaining life points, and there's not many ways to gain life points these days. And basically what he does is once per turn you can gain 500 life points for each card in your opponent's hand. Granted, he's best obviously going first, and then you normal summon him, get 2,500 life points. It's really, really nice. The only downside is that it goes by your opponent's hand. I'd much rather have, like, cards your opponent controls and in your hand or something like that. Maybe that'd be a bit too broken, but oh well. I digress, because in all honesty, for the GX era, he wasn't that bad, and hey, being able to get back life points, I like it. And then here's one of the actually really good Neo-Spacians aside from Grand Mole, and honestly, I think these guys are the best 4 Neo-Spacians. And once per turn, you can discard a card, look at your opponent's hand, and choose a monster in it. If you control a monster with higher attack greater than or equal to the attack of the chosen card, destroy the chosen card and inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Otherwise, you take 500. So, now, why is this a good thing? So, first and foremost, you can pick out a card from your opponent's hand. Well, heck, mainly, you get to look at your opponent's hand. That is really good information to have. And if you have a monster that's stronger than a monster in your opponent's hand, you get to get rid of that monster, and your opponent takes 500 damage. So you get to burn your opponent, and you get to pick out a card from their hand. That is really, really good. Granted, it does have that downside that you got to discard for his effect, and if your opponent doesn't have someone that's weaker than any of your monsters out on the field, you take 500 damage. But, however, especially in like these days with pendulums and stuff, being able to get rid of your opponent's pendulums in their hand and put them in the graveyard where they can't get them back very easily is just really, really good. Granted, though, the downside obviously is that it's it's kind of hard to get out more than one monster of decent attack power, and he's only 600, and I think I've only ever hit a monster of less than 600 attack once with him. I think I hit a max C with it. Okay. Now then, Neo-Spacian Flare Scarab. This guy gets 400 attack for each spell trap card your opponent controls. Not bad. At max, he can get, at max, he can get 2,000 attack power. So he can become a 2,500 level 3, which is hilarious. I've never had that happen, but it's still hilarious. I mean, level 3 with 2,500 attack. 2,400 attack. No, 25, yeah. is really cool. However, the issue with that is that the more back row your opponent has, the more likely you're not going to be able to get a punch in through your opponent's defenses with this guy. They probably had a Mirror Force or something set back there. And then the worst Neo-Spacian Glomos. If this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent gets to draw a card. That in and of itself, right there, the very first line, is bad. Now then, different effects happen depending on what that card is. And based on that, the following effects can happen. If it's a monster in the battle phase, that is really nice, but you still gave your opponent a monster. Spell, if this card is attacking, you can change it to a direct attack. That is nice. Or would be nice if he had more attack power. He has 300 attack. Why can't his defense and attack be switched? That is very annoying. And also, you still gave your opponent a spell card. Trap, change this card to defense position. Okay, so if he's attacking, you just gave your opponent a card. It's a trap. You know what it is. And he goes right into defense. Yay! Your opponent's safe from 300 damage, and you gave them a card. Everything about this card is just bad. It's so sad, because honestly, his upgraded forms are a lot cooler and work a lot better. Now that we get to the Chrysalis monsters, these guys are a sub-archetype of the neo-spacians, and they're basically baby versions of the neo-spacians. They're adorable, and that's really all they're here for, is being adorable. Look at these things, they're adorable. Now, granted though, they do have a use, in that if you have Neo-Space out on the field, and we'll get to Neo-Space in a little bit, it's one of the most important cards in the deck. You contribute off these guys and spell summon their corresponding Neo-Spacian monster from your hand or deck. That is nice, but there's no reason to play these. There is no reason to play the Chrysalis monsters. It is sad to say that, but there is no reason to play these guys. Like, there is no reason. And the main reason for that is because you have ways to get to your Neo-Spacians without needing these things. And granted, yes, they're adorable, and heck, I kind of want to collect them just because they're so adorable. I mean, look at this thing. This is baby version of Lomos. It's adorable, look at it. And there's Pantail. Look at it. It's a little puppy. That's all they're good for, is they're adorable. That's all they're good for. Granted, though, they do have a pretty cool, they do have two pretty cool spell cards that support the Chrysalis archetype. In Chrysalis Rebirth, you can tribute off face of Chrysalis, you can draw a special on a Neo-Spacian monster. And it's literally, and the heck, this card is pointless. They have their own effects to do this. The only point that this has is that, oh, you don't have Neo-Space, you can do it yourself without needing Neo-Space out. That's the only thing about it. Cocoon Party is honestly the only thing that makes these guys useful, is that, oh hey, you got a crap ton of these, crap ton of Neo-Spacians in the graveyard, activate this, spell summon, I don't know, 5 Chrysalis monsters when you're actually, I don't know, go into Dark Mist or something. That is just really sad. It really is. Because they really could have been a lot better. Like, if it's a hand, deck, or grave, maybe, because they could get them from the graveyard, but aside from that, they're just adorable. Now to Cross Border. This guy's really good. You can send one face-up monster you control to the graveyard, specify a Neo-Spacian from your hand. That is really good. You can send himself, but I don't recommend it. When this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Neo-Spacian monster from your deck to your hand. And you may be wondering, oh, why do you not recommend sending himself when you can get Special Summon and search? It misses timing. If you send himself, you get the Special Summon, and it misses timing with the adding effect. It really sucks, but oh well. Now that being said, though, he's not bad. Heck, he's best for just setting and searching, and hey, look at that, you got a free plus. Aside from that, though, he's not really all that great in the deck, aside from just searching out your Neo-Spacians, which is really nice. Now then, on to the spells. Space Gift. Draw one card for each different Neo-Spacian name on... Draw one card for each different Neo-Spacian on the field that you control. So at max, you can draw 5 cards, so you can go +4, which is really nice. But the issue with this is the fact that this deck does not have very good swarming. Okay? Yes, you can use Cocoon Party to get out the Chrysalis, and then use the Chrysalis' effect, summon them off from the deck. The issue with that is that it requires you to play the Chrysalis. And they're not that good. They're not worth playing at all. The only other card that really lets you spam out the Neo-Spacians is Common Soul, which is a really good spell card, and we'll get to it when we get to it. But that's really the only one that lets you spam them out, and you only get one other monster, so at max you'll have 2, so at max you'll +1, and really unless you wall up with a crap ton of back row, you're not really going to get you're not really going to get plus very much. Now that being said, though, there is a very interesting Exodia Neo-Spacian deck that I have actually been testing out. It's not good enough to really warrant anything major, but I run my dual deck profile in a Exodia neo-spacian deck. It's very interesting in how it plays. Now then, but the main reason for that is because this deck actually has a lot of draw power. Now then, Miracle Contact. Shuffle into the deck from your hand, field, or graveyard the fusion material monsters that are listed on an Elemental Hero fusion monster that lists Elemental Hero Neos as a fusion material. Then special summon that fusion monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. This card is amazing. It's a Miracle Fusion for the Elemental Hero Neos fusions, which is something that the deck really needed. This card is a mandatory 3 of in the deck, and it is just absolutely amazing. It's actually also relatively new. It came out in Return of the Duelist, which is such a random time for this card to come out. It should have came out with the rest of the stuff, but oh well. First and foremost, you get a free summon. You get to put your guys back in a graveyard. So let's say you have Neos, Hummingbird, and I don't know, Aqua Dolphin in graveyard. Shuffle all 3 back in the deck, summon out Storm Neos. Okay, so you just got your guys back in the deck, and you got a free 3,000 beat stick. The only issue I have with this card is that it is not a correct fusion summon, which means if they die, you can't bring them back. And these are actually one of the few, the Elemental Hero Neos fusions that go with the neo-spacians are the only Elemental Hero fusion monsters that can be special summoned by other ways, which is very interesting. Granted, they must first be special summoned, but however, you can still call to haunt them back and stuff. And the main reason for this is because all of them, with the exception of him and these guys over here, because they're not Neos fusions, technically speaking, get shuffled back into the deck at the end phase. Oh yeah, and this guy, because he's actually really hard to summon. So the majority of the Elemental Hero Neos fusions get shuffled back to the deck at the end phase. It's not optional, and you don't get anything out of it, which is another big hindrance on the deck, and we'll get to that whenever we start talking about them. And so this card really helped out the deck a lot. It's an amazing card. My only issue with it is, again, it's not a correct fusion summon, and also you can't summon Rainbow Neos off of it. And that's the biggest controversy with the card, is that you can't summon Rainbow Neos off of it, because it specifies it has to be an Elemental Hero fusion, and Rainbow Neos does not have Elemental Hero in the name. Now, Rafa Neos, select a face-up Elemental Hero Neos you control, return it to the deck, and destroy all cards on the field. This would be so much better if it was a quick play. Oh, you're going to Dark Hole? Okay, Rafa Neos, shuffle, goodbye all your back row. And your stuff that, like, I don't know, says like it can't be destroyed by your own card effects or something. I don't know. We already talked about Cocoon Party. Again, this card would be a lot better if it was a quick play. Now then, next. I like the idea of this card. Mostly because it is a archetypal version of Metamorphosis. Now, if you don't know what Metamorphosis is, and this again is if I remember the name right, Metamorphosis is an old spell card. It says tribute off a monster you control, special summon a fusion monster from your extra deck with the same level. Next is basically that, but however, it's only for neo-spacians, and it summons a level 4 monster with the same name from your extra deck. And this is a big hindrance of decks. First and foremost, we never got a fusion version of all 5 guys. We only got 2, Twinkle Moss and Marine Dolphin. Secondly, these guys are always treated as neo-spacian Glow Moss and always treated as Aqua Dolphin, respectively. So therefore, at max, you can have 1 Marine Dolphin and 2 Aqua Dolphin, or 3 and 0, or 2 and 1. It's that stupid Harpy thing, you know, with like, oh, they have the same name, even though they're 2 completely different monsters. But because they're treated as having the same name, you can only have any ratio of up to a total of 3 of these guys. So you can have like 1 and 2 of him, and like 2 and 1 of him. It's so stupid. It really is. Now, if it said like, oh, they're treated as that name on the field, that'd be a lot better. Now then, next up is Convert Contact. Now, this is the card that really makes this deck, and is actually the main draw power behind the deck that I mentioned earlier. And basically, you can only activate it by control no monsters. Send a neo-spacian monster from your hand and 1 from your deck to the graveyard, then draw 2 cards. So you got to discard a neo-spacian, and you get to send a neo-spacian from your deck to the graveyard, and then you get to draw 2 cards. So this is like the ultimate deck miller, like, sorry, not deck miller, deck thinning card I've ever seen. You activate 3 of these. Oh, hey, look at that. You just got 3. Sorry. Let's see here. 2 times 3 for 8, so that'd be, what, 6 cards just for just for the drawing, and then that'd be, so 9 cards out of your deck. 9 cards out of your deck. That is just really stupid, and that is why there's an Exodia neo-spacian deck. And this adds more feel for Miracle Contact, which, by the way, is not a once per turn, so therefore, if you draw multiple Miracle Contacts and you have multiple Neoses and everything, you can just go ham on your opponent. And that is just really, really, really awesome. And I just absolutely like this card a lot. Now then, next up, Reverse of Neos. Activate only whenever a face-up Neos fusion monster you control is destroyed. Special summon 1 Elemental Hero Neos monster from your deck in attack position. It gains a 5 attack, and it is destroyed during the end phase of this turn. So basically, your opponent mirror forced your Elemental Hero Dark Neos. Okay, here comes a Neos from my deck, and he is angry. He is at 3,500 attack, and he is going to kill himself at the end phase. That's basically what this card does. And it actually just occurred to me that I am missing a card. Where is it? Sorry, Contact Out. I just noticed that it's not here. And it's one of my favorite cards in the deck, and I was just like really concerned that it's not here. So, Contact Out. Quick play spell card, return 1 Neos fusion monster you control to the deck. If auto fusion materials that are listed on that fusion monster are in your deck, you can special summon them. It's basically a defusion, and it allows for going for so many OTKs. It is such a good card. However, it's also hard to find room for this card in your deck. It really is, and it sucks. So, Reverse of Neos, really good card. Again, same issue of Contact Out. There's just not enough space in the deck for these 2 cards, and they would be really useful. Reverse of Neos is also useful for keeping out for maintaining a board. Contact Out is useful for dodging things like Bottomless and all that annoying crap. And it is just a really, really, really good card overall. And I like to try and find room for at least 2 of it in every Neos Hero deck that I play. Although it's really hard. It really is, because there's just not enough room. Now, the next up is Common Soul. Continuous spell card. I mentioned this earlier. Select 1 face-up monster on the field. Special summon 1 neo-spacian monster from your hand to the same side of the field as the selected monster. The selected monster gains attack equal to the attack of the monster that was special summoned by this effect. When this card is removed from the field, return the special summon monster to its owner's hand. Now then, interesting thing about this. First and foremost, it allows you to spam out neo-spacians to your side of the field, and allows you to get out more guys for Space Gift. That's awesome. It really is. Okay, just being able to do that. It's really nice. Downside. Okay, there really isn't a downside. Now, there is something interesting. You can give a neo-spacian to your opponent's side of the field, and then, oh, hey, look at that. You just gave your opponent a monster. But now, why would you want to do that? Well, you give them Glow Moss, and then, hey, look at that. You attack the Glow Moss, and you get to draw a card. That is really nice, but however, you would be still losing 2 cards for just being able to draw a card. It's really not worth it. Now then, next up is Instant Neo-Space, and in order to properly explain this card, I'm also going to have to talk about Neo-Space now. Now then, Instant Neo-Space, you equip only to a fusion monster that lists Elemental Hero Neos as a fusion material. It does not have to activate its effect during the end phase to shuffle itself from into the extract. If the equipped monster leaves the field, you can special summon a Elemental Hero Neos from your hand, deck, or graveyard. This card is amazing. It's basically a equipped spell card version of Neo-Space, which basically says Elemental Hero Neos and all fusion monsters that list him as a fusion material gain 500 attack. 500 attack. Fusion monsters that list Elemental Hero Neos as a fusion material do not have to go back to the extract. And these cards are both very, very, very important to the deck because, as I said earlier, almost like 90% of these guys go back to the extra deck at the end phase. They just go back. You don't get anything out of it. You don't get your Neos back. You don't get your Awkward Off back. They just go back. You lose everything, and you just kind of cry. Which is really sad because these guys all have really good effects. They all have amazing effects, and they all have their own uses in their own times, and it just is really good. The deck is so versatile. But because they go back to the deck at the end phase, you can't really keep a board out with these guys, which is why Contact Out is really good in the deck, and so are these. These are absolutely integral, and you have to play at least 3 of both of these in your deck. Um, a lot of people actually really hate instant Neo-Space, but I absolutely love it. I almost like it more than Neo-Space because, let's say, your opponent mirror forces one of your guys. You get a Neos back from your hand deck or graveyard. That is amazing. Also, I don't know if this was mistiming, but I believe if you contact out an instant Neos spaced equipped monster, you get a second Neos, and you also get the monster. You get the monsters off of contact out, and you get the Neos for an instant Neos space. I'm not entirely sure on that. I'm not very good with timing and everything, so let me know about that, guys. Now then, that being said, these are absolutely necessary in the deck. They are mandatory in the deck. Next up, Neos Force. I really like the artwork of this card when it's an ultimate rarity because it is just so beautiful. Not a starting that little anecdote. You equip only to Elemental Hero Neos. It gets 800 attack, and when it destroys a monster by battle and sends it to graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of the destroyed monster. During the end phase, shuffle this card into the deck. So, it gives Elemental Hero Neos 800 more attack, so he can get over more things. And if you have the field spell out, he's 3800 with this, which is pretty darn beefy. Additionally, if he kills any monster in battle, your opponent takes damage equal to that monster's attack power. It basically gives Neos Elemental Hero Flame Man's effect, which is really good. This equip card, the only thing holding it back is that it goes back to your deck during the end phase. That is really stupid, and I don't know what Konami was thinking when they put that into this card, because it just hinders it so much. Why would you do that? Why would you make it to where you have a semi-decent equip card that just goes back to the extract? Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are already hesitant to play equip cards. Why would you want to play an equip card that goes back to your deck in the end phase? That is just insane. And that is my biggest beef with this card. Now then, Cocoon Veil. This card is a card useful for Chrysalis monsters. Activate by tributing one Chrysalis monster this turn. Any damage to a player caused by an effect becomes 0. Special summon one neo-spacian monster written on that Chrysalis monster you attributed from your hand, deck, or from either player's graveyard. So it's nice in a mirror match if anybody's doing that. And it also stops all effect damage that turn. I actually really do like this card, and it is really good for side decking, and that's about all. And that's really sad. Because, again, it's a Chrysalis card, and that's the biggest hindrance. If it's attributed off a neo-spacian monster and specified a neo-spacian with a different name and had everything else in the same effect, that'd be really nice. It'd be a really good side deck card for the deck against like a burn deck or something. But sadly, that's not the case. Now then, on to the extract. We are almost out. Guys, we're almost at a friggin' half an hour, and we're just now at the extract. So, now then, Twinkle Moss. Basically, you can always summon them off of next by tributing off a Glow Moss. When this card attacks yours attack, draw one card, and he has the exact same effect as Glow Moss, but you're the one who draws the card, not your opponent, which is amazing. If this guy was Glow Moss, and he could, like, why can't this guy be Glow Moss? Like, seriously, he has slightly better stats. He's on level 4, so you can go for rank 4, and you get to draw the card, not your opponent. That is really good. Now, the next up is Marine Dolphin. He's always treated as Aqua Dolphin, just like how this guy's always treated as Glow Moss. Cannot be spell summoned except by next. Once per turn, you can discard a card to look at your opponent's hand and select one monster in it. If you control a monster of an attack greater than or equal to the selected monsters, destroy the selected card and inflict 500 damage to your opponent. My biggest issue with this card is that it's basically Aqua Dolphin's effect, but you don't take the damage if your opponent doesn't have a monster. That is stupid. They really should have made it more worthwhile to going into them. Now they kind of did, because there's also a Elemental Hero fusion monster that actually does need this guy to go into him, and that is very, 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 very annoying. Now then, this guy right over here, Elemental Hero Marine Neos, he needs Marine Dolphin to go into him. He's one of the few Elemental Hero Neos fusions that do not get shuffled back into the extract at the end phase, and basically he has the best version of Aqua Dolphin's effect. Once per turn, you can destroy one random card in your opponent's hand. Just destroy a random card in your opponent's hand, and he's a 2800 beat stick. He does not get shuffled back. He's out there. Once he's out there until somebody kills him. And once per turn, you can just pop a card in your opponent's hand. That is really, really, really good. Now, notice how it says destroy, not discard, which means if you're doing against Dark World, they don't get their effects. They get destroyed, which is really, really nice. Now then, Elemental Hero Neos Knight. This is actually one of the few Elemental Hero Neos fusions that need polymerization. This card cannot be special summoned except by Fusion Summon. This card gains attack equal to half the attack of a warrior type fusion monster used to fusion summon him other than Elemental Hero Neos. This card can attack twice during battle phase, and if this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent takes no battle damage. I really like this guy. He can get over just about anything. You fusion summon with, I don't know, Neos and just a random card, Pathfinder. This guy gets 900 attack power. Can punch over just about anything and can clear out the board for your other monsters to attack directly. My biggest issue with this guy is that your opponent doesn't take any battle damage from him. It's very, very annoying. Now then, Glow Neos. This guy is really good. So, first and foremost, I'm going to cover something real quick. All Elemental Hero Neos fusions, with the exception of Neos Knight and Divine Neos, have the clause where they contact fusion. Instead of using poly, the monsters get shuffled back from the deck on the field. So you gotta have Neos and you gotta have the little moss out, and they gotta be shuffled back in the deck from the field, which is very, very annoying. Now then, again, and he can be special by other ways, but first he's gotta be fusion summoned. Now then, during the end phase, shuffle this card into the X check. All of them have that, unless I say otherwise. Well, unless said otherwise, I mean. Once per turn in your main phase, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls, destroy that card, and then apply the following effects based on the type. Monster, this card cannot attack this turn, sadly. Spell, this card can attack your opponent directly this turn. Or trap, this card is changed to defense position. Okay. So, he has an upgraded version of Flowmoss's effect, and basically once per turn you can pop any card on the field that your opponent has, and he can either not attack that turn, attack directly, or he gets changed to defense. Now, obviously, you're going to want to use the effect to pop a spell card so he can attack directly for 25, because the other two really aren't all that useful. But however, hey, it's still nice to just be able to pop a card for free. Next up is Flare Neos. Same summoning conditions and everything, and he also does, of course, get shuffled back in the deck. He gets 400 attack for each spell and trap card on the field. So, like it's for Scarab, he gets 400 attack for each spell and trap card, except unlike for Flare Scarab, he gets 400 attack for each spell and trap card everywhere on the field. So he gets really high up in attack power, and he can get over just about anything very easily. Next up is Aqua Neos. Same conditions as everybody else. Once per turn, you can discard one card, destroy one random card in your opponent's hand. That's nice and all. I don't like having to discard, but hey, whatever. Grandiose. Once per turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand. This guy is honestly one of the best, and he kind of looks like Gurren Lagann. Just saying. He's also honestly like tied for my favorite in terms of his art style. So just once per turn, you can just bounce a monster back to your opponent's hand. That is amazing. He has a once per turn Compulse on legs with 2,500 attack, 3,000 if you have the field spell out. Absolutely amazing monster, and honestly, if Granmole ever comes back, this guy's going to be like at 2 in the deck instead of at 1, because you're not guaranteed to keep your Granmole around. Next up is Dark Neos. Honestly, this guy is my favorite. Like, I'm just going to have let me just gush as a fan real quick. The art looks amazing. This thing looks like Wolverine. He looks cool. His effect is amazing. Alright, I'm done. If this card is not already targeting a monster with its effect, you can target one face-up effect monster on the field. While you control this face-up card, that target's effect on the field is negated. So, he's a Fiendish Chain. Okay, target Beals. Your Beals' effect is negated, and now I can have one of my other guys attack over it. Or I can target your Marshmallow, attack over it. I can target any of your annoying monsters, negate their effects. That is amazing. He is quite literally a Fiendish Chain on legs, which is really, really nice. Everything else we already talked about earlier, but I'm going to mention him again. Basically, his life points get increased equal to the difference between your opponent's life points and your life points, provided that your opponent's life points are higher. There's a multi-K around him. Magma Neos, he actually needs Neos, Flare, Scarab, and Granmole, so he needs 3 monsters. This guy gets 400 attack for each card on the field, and then during the end phase, he gets shuffled back into the extra deck. And when he is shuffled back into the extra deck this way, all cards on the field get returned to the hand. This guy is amazing, and he's one of the few neo-spacians you don't mind getting shuffled back to the end, back to the extra deck during the end phase, because everything gets bounced, and it's kind of like just resetting the board. Now, granted, though, that is a bit annoying, because if your opponent has more stuff and you don't have something stopping attack, like Scarecrow or something, you can get OTK'd next turn. But, however, that can still really wipe out your opponent's board. Like, imagine if your opponent has 4 or 5 Exceeds or Synchros or something out on field. You summon out this guy, you don't even attack or anything, you just end turn, and everybody goes back to the extra deck. That is really, really mean. Now, the next up is Storm Neos. Once per turn, you can destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. Walking Heavy Storm. During the end phase, shuffle this card back into the extra deck. When this card is shuffled back into the extra deck this way, shuffle all cards on the field into the deck. Just like it's a better version of Magma Neos. And just like Magma Neos, he needs 2 neo-spacians as well, along with Neos, and needing that Air Neos, Air Hummingbird and Aqua Dolphin. So he's a Walking Heavy Storm, and then during the end phase, if he gets shuffled back, everything gets shuffled back along with him back into the deck. That is really, really, really good. And now then, Chaos Neos, who is probably like in 3rd place for best looking Neos fusion in my personal opinion. During the end phase, shuffle this card back into the extra deck. He's the only 3 monster requirement that does not have an effect that happens whenever he goes back. Sorry, he actually does. I did not notice he did. Then set all face-up monsters on the field. Wow, okay, that is really underwhelming. I did not know that he actually had that. Because it's just kind of like in there amongst all this text that you don't really notice it. So now then, during your main phase 1, you can toss a coin 3 times. And depending on how many heads you roll, the effects will depend on how many heads you get. So, 3 heads, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, best effect. 2 heads for the rest of this turn, the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls are negated, second best effect. Number 1, return all monsters you control to the hand. That's the worst, and honestly, my luck is terrible, so I oftentimes get that. But no, seriously, no, generally speaking, you usually get the 2 effect, provided your luck is decent. But however, he has 2 really good effects and 1 absolutely atrocious effect. But hey, whatever. A really good monster, 3,000 attack, just like these 2 over here. Pretty good effects. Nada. Define Neos. This guy, he's not technically a neo-spacian, but he is technically also a neo-spacian. He's also supposed to technically be the strongest elemental hero. Fusion monster from the anime, but however, he's really not all that great in my personal opinion. So, he must be fusing someone using any 5 Neos, Neo-spacian, Neo-spacian, or hero monsters, including at least 1 Neos, Neo-space monster, 1 Neo-spacian, and 1 hero monster. So you need a Neos, you need a Neo-spacian, you need a hero, and you need a Neo-space monster. That is really just stupid. Like, holy crap. You need so much stuff, and heck, there's only like 1 Neo-space monster, and that's Pathfinder. What the heck? Oh my god, it is just so bad. In terms of the summoning distance just alone. Granted, he can be summoned by Miracle Fusion, which is useful. Once per turn, you can banish one Neos, Neo-space, Neo-spacian, or hero monster from your graveyard. This card gains 500 attack, and until the end phase, it gains that monster's banished effects. So you can banish the Dark Neos, and it gets Dark Neos' effect until the end phase, plus 500 more attack power. This has got to be one of the most underwhelming boss monsters I've ever seen. And I'm a fan of Rainbow Dragon. Oh my god. He's atrocious. Like, holy crap. Okay, on to the next card. Contact Soul. Sorry. Actually, now we're at the anime support cards. So, these cards are pretty cool overall. This card's actually not from the anime. This card is actually printed, but we'll get to it here in a second. So, Contact Soul, activate only if you control a face-up Neos. Spell summon 1 Neo-spacian from your hand, deck, or graveyard. During your end phase, return all monsters you control to the deck. Why has this card not been printed? Okay, you have Neos out, summon out a Neo-spacian from your hand, deck, or grave. Why is this card not out? It's an instant access to any of these guys. I don't like the effect that it returns everything you control back to the deck. Honestly, if they would print this, I'd highly suggest to keep this in text. In fact, just erase this last line of text. That'd make it a whole lot better, and make the deck a whole lot faster, and make it a whole lot easier to get out to your monsters. Why is that not a thing? Why is this card not a thing in real life? Next up is Cross Chains. Now this is supposed to play into the how the E-Heroes and the neo-spacians are supposed to work together, and actually there's another version of this card that works with the Actually, no, this is just the same thing together. Never mind. I was thinking of a different card. I don't know. Return one E-Hero monster you control to the deck and special one of a neo-spacian from your deck with the level equal to that monster. Or you can return a neo-spacian you control to the deck and special one an E-Hero from your deck with the same level as that monster. So basically what you swap out an Aqua Dolphin for an Avion, which is really nice. It can really help out with the fusions and everything, and it is... Again, I don't understand why this card's not been printed. Granted, there's not very many level 3 E-Heroes that anybody plays nowadays, but hey, it's still nice. On an Ian Shuffle, return an elemental hero monster you control to the deck, special when a neo-spacian monster from your deck. That monster's effects are negated. Sorry, this is the card I was thinking of. Same thing. Why is this card not out yet? I mean, it's not bad, granted, and also it doesn't restrict the monster to being the same level or anything. But same thing, why is this card not out? And why is it showing Aqua Dolphin and Avion again? I don't get that. Next up, Neos Energy, equip only to a neo-spacian monster, gains 800 attack. During each of your standby phases, it loses 300 attack. I like how it basically lets you be able to make this thing somewhat beefy. It makes Panther the 1800 attack that he should be, but I don't like how it loses the attack. Like, honestly, this card's not very good at all. Now a Neo Spiral Force. If you control an elemental hero, Neos target a monster you control, except Neos double its attack until the end phase. Neos cannot attack. Alrighty, decent card. It's from the movie. Neo Signal. Now this card I really don't understand why we don't have, because we got Destiny, Huge Signal, and Hero Signal. Activate only when a monster you control is destroyed and sent to graveyard. Special summon a level 4 or lower neo-spacian monster from your hand or deck. It's literally Hero Signal for Neos monsters. Like, why is this card not out? we got Hero Signal and we got Destiny Signal. Why is this card not out? Neo Space Road. Activate only when an elemental hero Neos you control is destroyed by battle and sent to graveyard. Draw one card and end the battle phase. This is so good! Okay, you killed my Neos by battle. Okay, I get to draw a card, and the battle phase ends right there, so you can't OTK me. That is really nice. Now, granted, it does have to be by battle, so if this card was reprinted, I would hope that they would adjust it to power creep in the current times and make it to where it's by battle and card effect. Hey, whatever, it's a nice card. And then finally, Future Vision. Activate by discarding one polymerization while you control face-up E-Hero Neos. Send from your deck to the graveyard as many fusion materials listed on a Neos fusion monster as card as possible, ignoring the summoning conditions. Wait, what? Send from your deck to the graveyard is... Okay, I think it's also supposed to fusion summon the monster. For whatever reason, it's not listed on here. That is very, very weird. Oh well. Just gonna ignore that card since the card is the full card like this on here is not on here. Now then, this card has actually been printed. It's called Get Your Game On. Get your game on. You only play this card if you were present at the 2007 Trading Card Game World Championship. The attack of all your E-Heroes and neo-spacian monsters on the field are doubled. I kinda want this card. And my issue with this card, okay, this is a real card, and how is anybody going to know if you were actually at the 2007 World Championship? I like how it doubles all your E-Heroes and your Neo-Spacians. I mean, like your Neos becomes 5,000 attack power. Holy crap, that's a lot. Alrighty, okay, jokes aside, it's a cool card. I like the effect. I just wish it was more available to the public, and anybody could play, not just people who were at the 2007 YCS. Alrighty, so, overall, this deck it's got a crap ton of support, just not much of it is good. They need better spell and trap cards, they need Grand Roll back to 3, they need more they need, like, better ways to get out the monsters so you can go into diffusions. They need more ways to keep diffusions out on the field. They need like all of their anime support cards. They need a lot, and I don't really want to go into too much detail because we're at 45 minutes, guys. I do not want to make this I do not want to make this an hour-long video. So, guys, basically speaking, this card is a little bit overdeveloped. It's got way too much support. It's got way too much stuff, and not enough good stuff. Like, it really does suck that despite this being like the poster child of the GX era, this deck is just not very good at all. Like, I mean, like, come on, Konami. I know you guys can make a deck good if you really wanted to. Yeah, you're not going to. Anyways, so general thoughts: it needs more ways to swarm out monsters. Preferably neo-spacians, and it needs easier ways to get out neos. It needs monsters that pretend to be neos while on the field, preferably a level 4. It might be exact same stats as Neos Alias, but however, aside from that, I really can't say much for what it needs, because it does actually benefit a lot from the e-hero support, and I could talk about that, but again, I don't want to make this an hour long, and it's already getting very close. So guys, tell me what you think of Neos and Neo-spacians and Chrysalis. I'm gonna try not to have this is way too long for a video. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day, guys. Thank you for sticking out 45 minutes. Peace out, guys. I love this deck a lot. Okay, I'm being hard on it because I love this deck a lot, and hey, it's a really cool deck. It's part of my childhood. See you guys later. Peace out.